Sometimes you've got to hold your hands up, ladies and gents, and say, I think I was wrong about this. So let's dive into it. You can see on the screen there War Games Survivor Series, Roman Reigns, Jimmy Uso, and Jey Uso, particularly after Jey Uso appeared on SmackDown this past week. So let's give a quick explanation for those that are not aware of what I think I was wrong about and where I think we are heading to. Yes, I already put out nice and early Survivor Series War Games predicting who will be in the War Games matches because before Bad Blood, ladies and gentlemen, I felt the direction was completely different to where we're going. Over 2 days of a Bad Blood weekend, everything changed because first off, I thought we were going to get Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton as a duo against the Bloodline. LOL. No, we're not. As you can see, over Bloodline weekend, we've seen Kevin Owens has turned on Cody Rhodes with some raw footage, followed by the past week on SmackDown on Randy Orton as well. We've now seen an explanation from KO as well. And of course, at Bad Blood itself, Jimmy Uso made a return to WWE to put himself alongside the Tribal Chief once again. He said he'd always be his Tribal Chief. And he said in the beatdown since, we need Jey. Jimmy's even gone to Raw to see Jey Uso. Jey's not seemed that interested. However, Jey Uso has now appeared on SmackDown. Has even spoken to Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline. He's pretty much challenged them to a certain degree. The next time you see me, it'll be in a different capacity. And he has backstage, as we saw on the thumbnail there, he has been spoken to by Roman and Jimmy. Roman has said he is proud of Jey Uso. He should be. He's the Intercontinental Champion. But how long will Jey Uso be the IC champ? That's one of the questions I'm going to dive into nice and early into the stream because, yes, it's Groundhog Day, ladies and gentlemen. We've got the IC title on Raw once again, Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker. And I just wonder, after SmackDown, are we going to get some interferences from the new Bloodline that could cost Jey that IC title and just push him back in the direction of the OTC, the original Tribal Chief, and yes, the original Bloodline? Because at this point, I even thought Sami Zayn could potentially be someone that could be aligned in this. And of course, at the time when I was recording, I said, well, maybe it won't happen because he's tied up with Gunther. That's finished now. I think we've got potential to get everything on side here. And if, well, KO's having a meltdown over Cody aligning with Roman. Imagine how it would feel with Sammy if he goes back. But NXT, welcome to the show. I've admitted I'm wrong. We're getting Bloodline versus Bloodline at Survivor Series. We're not waiting 12 more months. It's happening this year. It feels like the dots are already being connected. Do you see it happening now like I do as well? Or do you see something different? And what's going on with Jey Uso and the IC title?
I mean, maybe it's too obvious that that's what they're doing. I mean, I agree with you. I think that Jey is going to lose that IC title because you need some sort of momentum for Jey to turn around and go, okay, let's do War Games. I mean, I think the only thing is obviously the fourth competitor. You could have Cody, you could have Sammy. It just depends what they want to do. That's the only thing I'm not too sure about. Either way it works for me. It's just it depends on what the outcome of the match is, who's going to win, and where the story goes from here. Because I mean, if you're going to have you got the Saudi show coming up, and again with that whole Gunther versus Cody thing, maybe there's a precipice for the new Bloodline to help Gunther win that match, which then forces Cody to be part of War Games. I don't know, but I'm the same as you. I think Jey's going to unfortunately lose that IC title. That, or I was expecting a one-on-one match between him and Jacob Black, because that seemed to be the other thing they was trying to build.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems to be a lot of things have kind of gone to the side. I mean, yeah, absolutely, Jacob Fatu. And I mean, a lot of things have seemed to have gone sideways. What before Bloodline of what we thought the direction was going to be going. A lot of things have changed in that time. Obviously, we look with the other side. I thought Judgment Day would have Jey Uso and Sami Zayn on their team to go against with Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley, the Terror Twins. But Priest now seems to be interested in going for the World Heavyweight title again. When obviously, I guess Gunther is finished with Crown Jewel. I guess Rhea then will just go against Liv Morgan or will go against Raquel Rodriguez, depending on what way they want to fix it. Hopefully a match against Dominic Mysterio at some point would be fun as well. But at the same time, going back to this now, Jey Uso is the IC title and winning it, I thought was fantastic at the time because A, everybody wanted Jey Uso to win the IC title. B, it was great because it added unpredictability to championship matches on Raw once again. Bron Breakker was seen as like the future guy, was being built so well. Yeah, he lost the title in his second title defense, which made me just think, oh, poor Bron Breakker. He's not been buried though. He's just won the IC title and he's lost it to a WrestleMania main eventer, which is exactly what Jey Uso has been in the past, of course, with the Usos against Sami and KO. And then you think, right, okay, well, what's the storyline narrative going forward? Is Jey going to have a proper run with this title? He may still do that, and I hope he does. I want Jey Uso to have a proper run with that title, but in a way, it would actually be the perfect thing to say Jey Uso has been trying to get away from the bloodline, and every time he went to try and go for gold, it was being taken away from him, originally by his family, his twin in Jimmy Uso, but now it's actually being the other side of the bloodline. It's actually Solo's group that's actually going to stop him this time. And the thing is that the draft has kind of gone a bit funny in the last couple of weeks anyway, with Crown Jewel creeping in, because it's Raw versus SmackDown with these world champions. So everyone's going whichever side that they want to go. So it wouldn't surprise me if this new bloodline was to come in on Raw, help Bron Breakker win the IC title, and that's what Jey Uso says. You know what? Damn it, I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to talk to Roman, and they can sort of mend fences, and then they need that fourth member. And I suppose the question then is, that fourth member going to be Cody Rhodes, or is that fourth member going to be Sami Zayn? I lean towards Sami Zayn because now we have KO and Cody having their feud. Potentially, you could see them having a singles match at Survivor Series. I could even see a triple threat with Randy Orton at this rate. Wouldn't be surprised to see that go down. That could then break off to be Cody versus Randy Orton going into Saturday night's main event and the Royal Rumble. But what's your take on probably the last sort of ramblings I've had for the last couple of minutes?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you'd have Bron lose his second title defense, and then they potentially going to have Jey lose his second title defense. I don't want to say it's devaluing the IC title, because let's be honest, Gunther done such a fantastic job of elevating the level of it. I think for the purpose of story, it probably helps to change the champion and go back to Bron Breakker. Just so, like you said, we move on to War Games. And then, yeah, I mean, again, going back to this fourth person, again, Cody does either work for me, but I would prefer the idea of Sami, because obviously Sami was part of that original bloodline. He's involved in there somewhere. It's how they try and integrate him into that storyline, because I can't say I've seen a lot of him on TV recently off the top of my head. Like, most of it's just been KO, Randy, and Cody. So, like, again, where he's going to fit into that, let's be wrong, he'll fit right in straight away. You don't need to actually do much effort in terms of narrative to get Sami Zayn back into this picture. But yeah, I think that's probably going to be the safest bet. Yeah, in terms of Kevin Owens and Randy and Cody with a triple threat, I presume that they're probably going to do one-on-ones, because it's going to tide Cody over till probably Rumble. So it just gives him some story narratives to carry out there. So I can't really see a triple threat happening. Potentially a one-on-one versus both of them.
I have to wait and see how it's going to play out. Obviously, with the Sami Zayn idea as well, like you say, it's easy to bring him back into the fold. Obviously, with Jey Uso, they're both on Raw together. They both get on. And I think it could be the case of, like, Sami, he walked away. And if he was to explain to Jey, look, after everything that's happened, I think it could be the right time to walk back in. And I knew when to walk away, but I know when we need to be by their side. Like, this is something different. That could be an interesting, fun storyline beat if they were to do it. But there's one other idea that I could throw out there, and I've seen it thrown out there already, is the fact that Solo seems to be the one that keeps losing for this group. And we've seen already Jacob Fatu and the Tonga twins, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, go to NXT without Solo at one point, and do a beatdown. Obviously, Ava is the general manager, who is, of course, the daughter of The Rock. The Rock appeared at Bad Blood and obviously did the 1, 2, 3 and did that. Some were saying that's to do with the people in the ring. Obviously, it was, I believe, Jimmy Uso, Cody, and Roman Reigns in the ring at the time, which he did that too. But also, it could be a case of 1, 2, 3 strikes. Solo, you could be out soon because you keep being the one that keeps falling here. You're not getting the job done and getting the title. You lost in that tag team match at Bad Blood. If he screws up one more time, could you see The Rock kicking Solo out of that group, having The Rock then aligned with himself with Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, and Jacob Fatu against them, what really would be the original bloodline of where Solo would have to find his way back with Roman? Or is that too soon? Do we need a Roman versus Solo match first?
I mean, dude, I don't know at this point. I mean, it just taking everything outside of WWE context. Apparently, the whole Rock being part of WrestleMania is still up in the air because of his schedule. So that's always something that you have to play into as a major factor, whether he's actually going to be around to do it. I like the idea that Rock replaces Solo. I personally think the gesture probably aims more to the fact that he pinned Cody on night one of WrestleMania. So maybe that's what it's an indication to. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, they have to be really careful how this story is played out, because Jacob Fatu has made such a massive name for himself. And I think there is that worry that he could easily elevate himself above Solo Sikoa. And I think, I don't know, even almost to protect Solo, you might have to replace him with The Rock and then have Solo go back in with the original bloodline, just because they kind of even themselves out. You've got the Uso versus the Tongans, you'll have Solo versus Jacob, and then you've got Rock versus Roman. The balance kind of makes sense going that way. If you do it where it's the bloodline, as the new bloodline as it currently is, and you put Sammy in that position, it still kind of feels like the balance is more favored into the original bloodline. So I don't know. I'm quietly reserved that The Rock could easily replace Solo.
I think it happens at some point. The question is Survivor Series too soon for War Games? I think that's the big question for me. And I've put my neck out too much on War Games, so I'm going to let it play out. I think this time, rather than have to come out, because I don't see this happen too often, where like all the content creators will come out and say something. Go, do you know what? I got to admit, I got it wrong. And I feel like this was a video where it's like it's right to come out and say, look, I made a video. You all probably went out your way and watched it. I appreciate that you all take the time to do so, because this was actually a popular video that was posted. So I want to say, yeah, I got this wrong. I completely misread it. Here you go. This is where we're going. Seems to be Bloodline versus Bloodline. Yeah, exactly. Too much fantasy booking. But hey, we do pretty well. We got America Made. We called that before WrestleMania. It happened. We called the SummerSlam match card before it happened. The entire card is correct if you go back and watch that video. There's two matches that don't happen. One of them happens on the Raw after SummerSlam, and the other one happens on the SmackDown before SummerSlam. So it wasn't a bad looking. So pretty much all in all, we don't do too bad on here. But on this one, it deserved a shout saying, look, we're going to get it right next time.
All you've got to do is go back to the week after WrestleMania and look at my predictions for next year's WrestleMania match card and realize that they are completely wrong. And like, I think two of my matches were thrown out within the first week, of us doing that video. So I was like, I'm glad that was a year. Like, do you know what I mean? I was fantasy booking a year in advance, but yeah, to have two of my predicted matches get thrown out in the first week was, it's always fun when WWE screw you over like that.
Well, good news is, obviously, WrestleMania tickets get available this week. And Steve and I have been talking for about 2 months about this. We are going to redo WrestleMania match card predicted. WrestleMania Vegas.
I'm still going to have loads of roll matches.
We probably will, but we're gonna see, because Triple H said that in October usually the card is ready, 80% ready. So we're gonna see if we can get 80% right with the match card, and that video will hopefully be recorded at some point this upcoming week and released for you in time for when those tickets are released for WrestleMania. Myself and Steve will have a bit of a discussion off air on if that's going to be possible or not. But one thing we need to know is possible is if you can throw in lots of questions, lots of comments, and keep us busy for the next 45 minutes or so, because that would do pretty darn well for us. And C Nation Dog, you're not letting us down with that. I can see that. He says, I don't see Roman and Cody winning the tag team titles anymore. He sees the Motor City Machine Guns instead. Your thoughts of their debut on SmackDown?
Dude, I don't know what their previous TNA music was like, but I think the pyro was slightly off, which was kind of shoddy, but otherwise it's a great debut. They win a triple threat against a dude. The SmackDown roster is stacked for tag teams. To come off a win against them, I hope that they beat DIY next week, even though I do really like DIY, and I really hope they go and win the tag team titles. I think it's a great way to make a big name out of a tag team really quickly. Corey Graves, I think, had the greatest bit of commentary. They're your favorite tag team's favorite tag team. I thought that is the best line you could possibly say. It's such a good analogy of how to describe Motor City Machine Guns. But dude, yep, great debut. Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, they look like, do you know what I mean? They just look like they're natural, like they fit straight in place. And yeah, that SmackDown tag team roster is stacked.
It really is. I'm looking forward to all the matches that we have with Motor City Machine Guns on SmackDown. Obviously, getting DIY straight away. they said that's the match they wanted. And obviously, I think it's a match DIY have wanted as well. So give them 20 minutes in the Barclays Centre, please. I can't wait to see it. But I do agree. I think that they're going for those tag team titles. And we spoke about the idea if Jey Uso loses the IC title on Raw. It's a big if. It's a big if. If it happens, well, that could be a bit of stigma for perhaps maybe the Bloodline to have their tag team titles being cost and taken away from them on SmackDown. So then perhaps maybe it just becomes a blood feud rather than being involved with championships. And I think the Motor City Machine Guns would be a good, credible team to take it off the Bloodline.
Yeah, great, man. Like I said, it's good to see them here. And yeah, I mean, if anything, I think if they were to lose them tag team titles, and again, if you go on the whole theory of Rock replacing Solo, maybe that is one of the, do you know what I mean, pivotal points and the reason why they do that angle and replace Solo with The Rock.
Absolutely, indeed. We have to see how it will play out. But if you enjoyed the video so far, hit that like button, share with a friend, subscribe as well. If you are new here, just keep supporting the channel. Really, we do appreciate it. And of course, if you're late in tuning in, I was wrong about this. If you want to know what it is, you need to go back to the very beginning of the video. It is from Dot. At the start of the video, you can get all the detail there. C-Nation says, why did Raw's Intercontinental Champion Jey Uso appear on SmackDown? He is on Raw because the draft means nothing, and it's been proven in the last couple of weeks.
I don't think they've actually done too bad with something like I think obviously Vince kind of really screwed the whole draft thing over. So now it's like it's not like they're coming over and they're wrestling. It's like I don't mind in-ring promos essentially because it's kind of like this story transcends brands anyway, so it kind of makes sense. And you would remember back in the old days when the brand split meant something, and like you generally had to wait a week before you saw a continuation of a story beat. So I don't actually mind that like I said, we get these in-ring promos. I don't mind it when we get champions go to different brands. If anything, I think champions should be allowed to go to other brands. It kind of makes sense. It's almost a clever marketing ploy that you will have for instance, you have LA Knight going over to Raw. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, he's going to be competing on SmackDown this Friday. Go and watch him, blah, blah, blah. I don't actually mind it. Like I said, Vince really ruined it years ago. So it's not like I find it a big problem anymore.
In 2002, when the first draft took place, if you was a champion, you had the eligibility to go to both shows because you got bigger paychecks because you were demanded to be the guy, the person on both shows. So I think that's why I think that it does make sense because it kind of feels like, well, you are one of the biggest superstars in the company. It's treated in that way. Now, obviously, there's a host of championships. I think it's different to 2002. But the thing that I would say is that whilst I agree, draft LOL, at the same time, I would say that if we want Bloodline versus Bloodline, well, James is on Raw. So unless a trade is made now, you're going to have to get where people are going crossing over shows. And it, like you say, that I think they have done it better this year than they've done other years. Because like you say, Vince really ruined it back in the day. And I think that now it's certainly better represented than it has been in other times. But at the same time, if you want to see some of this special plays stuff happen, then you're going to need that invasion style happen here and there. Obviously, the Randy Orton one, I suppose, made sense after King and Queen of the Ring earlier in the year. For Jey Uso, yeah, it doesn't kind of make sense now. But if you want Bloodline versus Bloodline, which it does go on the CD, does go on to say here, by the way, wants that, well, then we're going to need some crossover for that to take place.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the Bloodline story as well, because again, like I said, it transcends it. But even the fact that the Saudi show coming up is essentially champion versus champion, and you need to build some sort of hype to have it. So you are going to have, again, champions crossing brands. You're going to have Liv and the Judgment Day coming over to mess with Nia. You're going to have Cody and Gunther going at each other one-on-one. It's like, it makes sense in terms of they're trying to build the hype for that show, which, again, I prefer because it's almost like this Crown Jewel is meant to be kind of like Survivor Series of old, like almost the whole brand versus brand thing, where you originally, like I said, you go back to the early days when they did the brand split, and they would never cross shows, and then you'd get to Survivor Series where they do the brand versus brand, and you're like, oh, this feels really special. You used to get like semi little invasion angles and all that kind of stuff, and I think that Crown Jewel this year is meant to be that, where you're getting these like semi invasion angles where people are coming over costing each other matches, and it's doing what it needs to do to build Crown Jewel essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Crown Jewel, like you said, it's like Survivor Series of the 2010s. It's almost like bragging rights of 2009 and 10, which is obviously that was champion versus champion, a lot of those shows as well. And was you a fan of bragging rights? If you're watching, let us know in the comments below right now. Just let us know bragging rights, yes or no. We'll give a shout as we go through the stream as well. But yeah, it would be interesting to know if people are a fan of the concept, because it's certainly a video that I've considered that we perhaps should put out. Champion versus champion at Crown Jewel. Does it work? Does it not work? Do you want to see it? Are you interested? Do you need to see that many jewels on the championship? I'd like to know your thoughts. But let's give a shout out to Dan the Man Williams very quickly. Dan, thank you for joining us. Of course, a pro wrestler in the pro wrestling world. And of course, on the indie scene, said he's had a crazy day, wrestled at Reunite's seminar, and spoke to Eric Young about Canada at a show in Cardiff. How incredible is that, Dan? You're moving up in the world, in the wrestling world, and I hope that you've probably gained a lot of valuable experience, I imagine, knowledge today. And I hope that it's been a thoroughly enjoyable one for you. And hopefully we'll get Dan back on the channel very soon, because he's got a lot of stuff he's learned in the pro wrestling world, and it would certainly be good to get his insight.
I imagine the Eric Young conversation was really insightful as well. Like, he has a knack for the business and behind the scenes and booking and all that kind of stuff. So I imagine that was, like I said, just really valuable information that he's gained from that.
I'm sure it was indeed. Dan, hope you had a great day, mate, and keep up the good work as always. But CD asks, why is Chris Statlander not with Stokely Hathaway anymore? You can't just have a turn on Willow Nightingale only to go back to being a babyface. Tony Khan, please make your storylines make sense. To be honest, I have no arguments with this. I think CD's on the money.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's AEW booking, unfortunately, for the women's division. It doesn't make sense half the time. Although on the plus side, though, Tony Storm being PWI's #1, I think that's cheese, man. Like, after the year that Rhea's had and Liv's had, I was really happily surprised that Tony Storm got #1 with that. But dude, otherwise I agree with this comment as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tony Storm's had an unbelievable year with that PWI, by the way. Obviously, I think it's the right call, because now she's on a break, but she wasn't on a break for the full calendar year, where obviously Liv has come up, but she was sort of only returned at the Royal Rumble, so she'd missed some months. Rhea Ripley had missed some months after WrestleMania, of course, up until SummerSlam. So for me, it was the right call that Tony Storm got that #1 spot in that particular time. But CD, we have no real good answer for you, really. Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway should have had a good storyline beat of why they broke up and not being together anymore. It doesn't really make sense. But a couple of questions that came in before we started, I want to make sure that they get their shout out, and I have not had a chance to note them down, so we're just going to verbally shout them out. First one comes from Aries QT3VS. That's easy to say. It says, how do you feel about Utah turning on Bryan Danielson at Wrestle Dream? Of course, obviously, they were on side. Then John Moxley won the championship. And of course, then afterwards, Will Utah, of course, first off, came out with Darby Allin looking to make the save, then turned on Darby, and then, of course, put the plastic bag over Bryan Danielson's head. For me personally, I'm going to answer first, if you don't mind, NXT first on this one. I think after the Dynamite, I think it was, you could see it coming a little bit, I think, but I do like the way it was executed, despite the fact I hate the plastic bag spot. I'm not a fan of it. I think it's very poor taste, and I think for people that are not, I think most people are knowledgeable about a plastic bag and what damage you can do, but there are one or two crazy people out there that probably don't need to see that sort of thing and be given ideas. So for me, I'm not a fan of that sort of thing being done. However, it was, I suppose, a perfect story beat after All Out, and I did like the conflict on Will Utah's face, because technically Bryan Danielson had lost, so the person that he was siding with was no longer a full-time professional wrestler, and I think it was a case of, well, I can't beat them on my own, so I'm going to join them. It almost felt like he's almost accepting Will Utah, that he's going to be the bitch of the brand new Blackpool Combat Club.
He's the JD McDonough of the Blackpool Combat Club, yeah?
Pretty much, yeah. It's almost in fear that he joined them.
In a more blunt way, I think this is just going to keep Willie Utah relevant. Like, I think if he doesn't go back to the Blackpool Combat Club, he fades into catering and does nothing really. Unless, like I said, I'm quietly reserved that maybe there's a point where, do you know what I mean? You know how Daniel Bryan was kicked out of NXT and then kicked out of the Nexus and then returns at SummerSlam, I believe it was. Maybe there's a whole point to they're trying to do the same with Wheeler Yuta, and eventually he turns on the BCC and ends up becoming, do you know what I mean? This massive baby face with a great pop and a great turn. I don't know, maybe, but like I said, at the minute, with the way they're booking, I just think he keeps Wheeler Yuta relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And the thing is, as well, like Wheeler Yuta, this could be the big story because if they want to see him breaking away, perhaps at some point he does, but maybe his time isn't now. Maybe there's not enough there for him right now to have a mega push on his own. Obviously, he had a great match with John Moxley a couple of years ago before joining the BCC. But I think if they did that match now, I still feel like the same. Wheeler Yuta hasn't grown as a performer enough to be on the level of a John Moxley at this point. And I think if you can build the story up nicely between now and when the time they do want him to break away, then you can perhaps build him up with that presentation to be that guy. Maybe he's, I called him the bitch of the BCC for now, but maybe he's the one that breaks away and actually can put this group down.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's not like he's not decorated in AEW. The problem that they've got with him is that he's been on ROH and no one watches ROH unless you pay for it. And that's the other problem. It's like he's been, I forget what their championship, he's been pure champion. Like he's been, I'm pretty sure he's been a tag team champion. He's very, like I said, he's won loads of stuff. And it's just the problem is that half of it's been on Ring of Honor and no one's seen it.
He's currently a trios champion in AEW with, of course, 2 other members of the BCC. So he's probably right to stick with them for now, to be fair. But it was well executed. I think the angle worked out pretty well with the way. And the only thing I would have preferred with the whole Moxley versus Danielson, if I had a nitpick, I would have preferred a pinfall victory just because of the fact that there was no air left in Danielson's lungs to kick out rather than just pass out in a sleeper. But that's just a personal preference. It's kind of the same thing. It's just me nitpicking. But I actually thought it was a really excellent main event at Wrestle Dream. I really enjoyed it.
Dude, still haven't had time to watch it yet, man. Like, just obviously, I've been dealing with a couple of bits at home this week, so I've not really had time to watch it. Like, I know the results, and I've seen some of the bits, and I've seen obviously like the plastic bag bit and all this kind. I've seen essentially the finish to the match, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's supposed to protect Bryan Danielson by having him like being choked out with a plastic bag. It's kind of like, it's like, you know, almost gives the impression Moxley's had to do anything and everything to win that title, which is okay. Yeah, I kind of get it. You've made Bryan Danielson seem strong, but the guy's retiring because obviously we don't know if he hasn't officially announced anything. I don't think. Like, it's just obviously what they've said on TV, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe it weakens John Moxley as a champion for the fact that he couldn't beat Bryan Danielson clean with a pinfall.
I think it's a strength in numbers, NWO style stable, and I think it was very important they got the title. And by crook, it didn't matter how he done because Hogan back in the day got help in the NWO. Sure. It was always the way.
Very true.
So I think it's okay with how it was done and executed, but time will tell with the what's next. And I think that's a big thing when it comes to AEW storytelling because I've found a way to word this as best as I can for AEW because everyone says, oh, AEW doesn't tell stories. It's where the best wrestle, but the storytelling is really bad. And I would agree to a point because sometimes when you look at some of the long-term storylines, stuff they did in the early days was good. Obviously, we look with Kenny versus Hangman, for example, those sort of storylines were good. But like recently, the long-term storylines haven't worked out the same all the time. Swerve and Hangman, they come back to it when they want to, when they need to. But other stuff, the Devil, for example, that didn't work out very, very well. But they are good at telling short stories. The story lasts a week or two before a pay-per-view, blow it out with a fantastic match, and there you go. Now we move on. They are fantastic at telling short stories rather than and using the matches to deliver bigger stories. They rely on the past and other these little bits and bobs that have happened with people in their careers, but it's stuff that we don't hear about until about a week before a pay-per-view.
Am I right in believing that they've just let go of Jimmy Jacobs as well? Is it Jimmy Jacobs, the
yes.
guy that used to work for WWE? So yeah. I think it's kind of like this is a really pivotal moment for AEW where it's kind of like, let's see what they do in terms of narrative going forward because it's going to be, I don't know, an interesting 12 months, I'd say, because you're right. They do make really good short stories, but their long-term narrative is god-awful. And I mean, yeah, dude, going back to the early days, just one of the best ones they did was having Kenny Omega win the title, and then he goes over to TNA. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like the shock factor that they were able to pull out in like 2020, like during COVID period was just fantastic. So yeah, just watch this space for the next 12 months when it comes to narrative of AEW, because hopefully maybe they've got someone else in, maybe they've got some ideas and they can just execute them better. But otherwise, I agree with what you said.
Absolutely. And another question that came in from Renee Porter, which, funny you mentioned Kenny Omega, by the way. Will Kenny Omega ever reach his highest potential in WWE, or will he stay in AEW forever? I'm going to say AEW forever at this point. I don't think he'll ever go WWE now.
I think the moment has passed. I think if they were ever going to sign him, it would have been their best opportunity was when he left New Japan. I don't regret him going to AEW because, like you said, he's had some great moments. He's been world champion. He's had some great storylines. But I think that the hype of Kenny Omega has slowly lost its value. And I think that, don't get me wrong, a great match, a great story can easily elevate him back up there again. But I'm the same as you. I think he's AEW for life. I think that if they were going to bring him in, it's kind of like WWE is so focused on trying to build their own stars now. Like they're trying to build their new pillars, for example, Bron Breakker, Carmelo Hayes. Do you know what I mean? They're trying to build their future. And like I said, I think the Kenny Omega moment in WWE is just gone. Like I said, if they're going to do it, have him win the Rumble and then win the title at Mania in his first 2 matches, that would have been the only way they could probably do it.
Probably, yeah, absolutely. I for me as well. I mean, when you look at Kenny Omega now, his health, I think, is the biggest thing as well. He needs to feel good to ever come back in the ring first, and I think that's the first thing. Wish him well, wish him a speedy recovery. But if he ever can return to a ring, I think it's an AEW ring. I don't see him in anywhere else at this point. But
I mean, the wrestling style is probably the only thing that would be why he comes to WWE is that it's not physically demanding as what a New Japan or an AEW is.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's go back to our comments then. The live chat that we've got right now. Pierre, thank you for joining us, by the way. Never apologize for the time. We're just pleased you are here. We're going to get some of your questions in very shortly, but I need to keep things in order for the meantime. And CD's got a couple in here, so let's get those up first for us. So I don't have an issue with Bron Breakker winning the IC title back, but I'm just not a fan of Bron Breakker being a babyface 1 week, and it makes it look WWE has no idea what they're doing with Bron Breakker.
I thought the video package did a really good job of explaining that because I don't know if you saw it or not, the one where he turns around and says, I came out and showed you the respect and you just didn't show it back to me. I was like, oh, do you know what? That kind of makes sense and it's a good way to keep him as a heel. So I didn't actually mind it.
Yeah, I didn't mind it either, to be fair. Like you said, it's explained fairly all right in that. And obviously, it goes to show that I think because people were starting to cheer for him, that's probably their way of saying, well, no, we want to keep you as a heel for now. We don't want to go the full on babyface, despite the fact everyone's doing the dog barking and stuff like that. But time will tell. But, some people will see issue with that booking. That's totally fair. He's okay, by the way, CD, with short title reigns. Sometimes if everyone had a long title reign, then it wouldn't be as special. Agreed. And I think it makes things unpredictable when you actually can feel a title change can happen at any point.
Yeah, and I think that you have to earn the right to have a long title reign. Like, you can't expect someone like I know I say that Gunther comes off 666 days as IC champion, but Gunther is a special talent. Like, everyone that knew about Gunther knew how much of a physical presence he could have and how much he can dominate in the ring. And like you said, Roman's come off 1,400 odd days. He's earned that right to have that run. So I've like having someone, for instance, like a Carmelo Hayes come in, he wins the US title and stays undefeated for 3 years. Not that he hasn't earned it, but like I just think it's too soon for someone in his career like that to have that kind of a run and be that dominant in one division for one particular title. Like you do genuinely have to earn that.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly there. And just what you mentioned, Carmelo Hayes, best of 7 this Friday. We're in the game 7. Who's winning, Andrade or Carmelo?
I mean, dude, there's no wrong answer because either one. I think the whole idea, obviously, is that they go on to face LA Knight for that US title. I think it's a kind of a case of who needs it more. I think Andrade is desperate for something. Like, I can't. That geezer hasn't had a good storyline since he was NXT champion, and like I really want him to do well. I mean, the only thing that's going to obviously if it's not a championship run, we've just discussed before, the only thing they can do is have him with Charlotte as a power couple of professional wrestling. That's a narrative I'd like to see him do, but there is no wrong answer, really. I mean, it's too hard to call. I think that obviously Logan Paul being the ref is just going to be the deciding factor. I'm going to stick my neck out and say Andrade. I just think he needs it more.
I think, did you say LA Knight or did you say Logan Paul? Sorry, is the special guest referee?
And I meant LA Knight, sorry.
That's all right, no worries. I thought myself, I've got it right, I've got it wrong. Yeah, I'm going with Carmelo. I just think to myself, he's an NBA guy. It's Game 7. It's the start of the NBA next week. You know,
Good
let's
shout.
go next.
Good shout.
I think it's just I'm going for that. But I'm agreeing with you, by the way. Andrade, Charlotte Flair. Give me that duo. I think that's what he needs, and then he can finally be.
Apparently, it's been rumored that Charlotte is already having a match at WrestleMania as well. They've already got plans in action for it. So it's like, oh well, same old Charlotte.
We need to predict what that match will be this upcoming week. That's going to be fun for us, isn't it? Let's get Pierre's first question up for us now. We can come back to some of CD's ones in a minute. It says, what if the greater power of the BCC is Ronda Rousey? If you think about the BCC, a fighter, and Ronda Rousey is a former UFC fighter, and her friend Marina Shafir is in the group. What do you think? So just to give a bit of context, just quickly, for those that are not kept up to date, John Moxley has said that this company is not yours anymore. AEW is not in control of their championship. They're not in control of their roster, and they're going to take out everybody. Some have speculated Shane McMahon could be that higher power of the fact that we have a lot of former WWE talent under that. But the idea here of a Ronda Rousey could be quite fun because, like you said here, it's a fighting mentality. There are a couple links that could be made there. What do you think of this link?
If they want a big name pop, sure. The problem is Ronda Rousey already has a tarnished history in pro wrestling. Like, her run in WWE wasn't the best, and she kind of suffered for it, and she was booed for it. And I think that that's something you have to really look at if you're going to bring someone in there. The other thing as well is I think Marina Shafir has been doing such a good job in elevating herself as a female wrestler. Like, she's been beating up half the guys every week. I wouldn't want her to lose the focus in that group as the dominant female wrestler. And if you bring in someone like Ronda, I think it takes it away from Marina Shafir.
Do you know, I would agree with that. I think, by the way, Marina Shafir has done amazing work, by the way, in this group, and I'd like to see how it's going to go moving forward. Yeah. With Ronda, though, it's a link that I think there you can see it. Like, I can see why Pierre has fought it. That's what I would say, because I see why everyone has said Shane McMahon. I can see it. I had another suggestion thrown to me on my Wrestle Dream predictions, and I'm hopefully going to give this person's name out correctly because I found the comment. It's Chrysex Angel or Chrysex Sangel, whichever it is. I apologize. It's one or the other. Has said, you remember there was a wrestler named War Master. He fought Claudio on 0 Hour last year. Of course, I believe he's talking about Josh Barnett of Bloodsport. Your thoughts?
I think the problem with that is that Josh Barnett has built up. He's kind of in a good spot at the minute. The fact that he has a working relationship with WWE and they allow Shayna Baszler to go work for Josh Barnett at Bloodsport. It's not a bad shout. I just think that if it is, obviously Barnett has to be careful about what he does, because you probably find that if he does start working for AEW, no more Shayna Baszler going to Bloodsport. So that's just one of the things you have to look for in that. It's a good shout. It's just, again, it's in terms of booking wise, I don't know if Barnett would want to lose out on Shayna Baszler appearing at Bloodsport.
I have to wait and see. Obviously, Moxley was very vocal with Josh Barnett on when he was on commentary when he had a match with Claudio as well. So I can see the links again. I can see why it's been thought of, and it could be fun. I can see all. It's going to be interesting to see how it's going to play out this storyline at the moment. I'm intrigued. I will say that much. See, this says, I heard a report that Darby Allin was supposed to win. I was supposed to beat Bryan Danielson to win the AEW World Championship of Wrestle Dream with John Moxley. But with John Moxley to give him that heel heat dang, I want to see Darby Allin as AEW World Champion. I'm sure he will beat John Moxley to win the title. Yeah, I've seen those reports from Wrestling Observer Newsletter. Dave Meltzer, I believe, was the one for that, but certainly Wrestling Observer Newsletter is where it's come from. Darby, of course, originally I think was supposed to win that title at Arthur Stadium was the first place it was going to be. Then it was supposed to be Wrestle Dream because obviously he's a Washington guy and Danielson wanted to put over Washington wrestler. But in the end, yeah, it was to get that heel heat for John Moxley. And to be honest, I've got to say, I think Moxley makes the most sense at this point. Obviously, you've got a heel Moxley. He broke away from what's supposed to be his brother as well, former stablemates in the BCC. And like you say, Darby Allin can be built because they're all talking about these people. You could be the face of AEW. You could be the face. Orange Cassidy had it from Jerry Lynn. They are looking to build new stars, to be new main eventers, to be new world champions. And I wouldn't be surprised to see one of those faces beat John Moxley to win that title back for All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah, my problem is that Darby's kind of like, since Sting retired, it's kind of like, what's Darby done? And it's like they really need to pull something out the bag for Darby because he can have insane matches all he wants, but I feel like his narrative every time has just been very one directional. So, dude, I'm all the same. I'm sorry, let me just rephrase that. I'm all up for them building new stars, but like we said a little while ago, they need to work on the long-term storytelling. If Darby Allin is that person who's going to take that title off John Moxley, they need to make sure that they do a really good job building it up because for me personally, I think Darby's just been he's a very one-directional character ever since he's been with Sting. Like it's the same thing. It's like I don't see anything different from him. Like he'll cut a decent promo every once in a while when he talks about, I don't know, being a cornerstone of AEW when he comes up like against MJF and stuff. I mean, I think there's a story there as well between those two. So they just have to be really good with their creative over the next, I don't know, 12 months, for example, and depending on when they plan on having Darby win it, if Darby is the one to take it.
Absolutely. Not to say, I mean, he plans to climb Mount Everest again next year, so maybe it's Orange Cassidy. We'll have to wait and see who or what it will be. I think the storyline goes on at least until World's End, so I think time will tell on how it's gonna play out from there, but we'll have to wait and see. Back to the Bloodline. What if the Bloodline were about, or this new Bloodline were about to cost you so, but then Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso help Jey Uso retain the Intercontinental Championship? That's a nice little twist there from CD. That way, I think everybody wins. Jey Uso keeps the IC title. He sees he's got problems with the new Bloodline. Sees the fact that Roman and Jimmy want to actually help him. Brings him back into the fold, maybe. Your thoughts?
It's not a bad shout, but my problem is you're then tying up the IC title in a storyline, and it's going to be exactly the same as Roman being the world champion or the Usos being the both tag champions. It's like the rest of your roster is going to suffer because Jay's going to be more focused on doing this bloodline story than defending the IC title. I would much rather have Bron Breakker win it and he goes on to defend it and he goes on to have killer matches against people. Like, I'd rather see that and have Jay more focused on the bloodline story and like building towards WrestleMania, because I think that at this point now that is the goal, is to build towards WrestleMania. And depending on what matches they want to do, I mean, easily just to throw one out there, Tongans versus the Usos for the tag team titles, for example, it's quite easy to book. But yeah, like I said, I just don't want to see the IC title caught up in a storyline and not be defended.
I like the suggestion from CD. I think that it's sort of a creative way, because it's always so easy to turn around and say, oh yeah, but then these people cost this person the title. Actually, it's like, they thought one step ahead. They knew that this was going to happen, so that they made sure that James kept the title. So I like that aspect of it, because obviously I think people want to see James remain IC champion for a little bit longer. I think there would be a little bit of unrest in amongst the IWC come Monday evening if he's dropped that championship back to Bron Breakker. And I think maybe some people say, oh, what's the point? Oh, was that all that build for James to win the singles title for like 20, 30 days? Like, what was the point of that? You can see there'd be unrest. So in a way, I think it's a creative way to get around it. However, I will still side though with you, because I do feel that actually, if Jey Uso loses his title, that's the excuse for him to come over. And I think we need to get the Bloodline to lose those tag team titles. I prefer to see championships not involved with this Bloodline saga unless it's The Rock going for Cody Rhodes.
There is easily an argument to be made for both ways. But then again, if you're going to say that, for instance, if you say to me that Roman and Jimmy saved Jay from losing the IC title, for example, we've just seen them not agree to be on the same wavelength. So what logic is there in Roman and Jimmy being at Raw and helping Jay retain that IC title? There is no logic. Whereas if you have Jay lose the title, Jay has reason to go back to the Bloodline. I think there's more logic in him losing it than in losing him retaining it.
Yeah, I mean, I see more logic in him losing it. The only thing I would say, and this goes back to a comment that CD made earlier in the stream, which I didn't actually call it up, CD. I'm very sorry about that one, but it's actually very good for now. It's like the end of SmackDown is the same every week right now. Roman gets his ass handed to him. It's the same thing every week. And I think, again, it was said like, well, look, he's off. He doesn't want to be with us. But it's like, at some point, you got to swallow your pride. You got to get him back on side because of the fact that, yeah, Jay doesn't want to be a part of this, but you need to turn around and say, look, I was wrong with everything I did. I need you back on side here. And maybe this is their way of handing out an olive branch.
I think, again, that's see, I'm okay with this because for me, this is showing the character development for Roman. Like, he was this unstoppable unit that was getting interferences in a lot of matches to retain his World Heavyweight Championship. And now the fact that he's lost that title and he's essentially having to rebuild from the start again, I don't mind seeing him getting his ass handed to him. We've had 4 years of him handing everyone else's ass to them. So it's kind of like I said, it's humanizing Roman. It's making him not seem like this almighty wrestling god that can't be defeated. And like the fact that he used the numbers game for so long, and now the fact that the numbers game is being used against him. So I don't mind seeing Roman getting his ass handed to him.
So fantastic observation next, which is in relation to what you're saying. Roman almost needs to learn to be the big dog again. He used to be able to take like 1-on-4 and used to win. And now he got used to being like, I need help to win. And now he's not as strong. Now he's not got the numbers on his sides. It's kind of like, it's almost evolving the character once again to being like, well, if you really are the tribal chief, this is how you need to get there. You need to be what you were before to get back to the top. So I kind of like that scenario and that theory with that. And it's going to be interesting. But if we need Bloodline versus Bloodline, he needs to find a way to get Jay back on side.
He needs to go with Vin Diesel and make it about family.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he needs to do. Let's go back into the comments, although I've accidentally hit myself to the bottom here. So that means now I'm going to have to find the right comment. There we go. Technology, eh? PS says, I think the Crown Jewel card will be champion versus champion matches, which, yes, that is going to happen. Bronson Reed versus Seth Rollins, and Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens, and Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez. That's a pretty decent lineup to me.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's a safe card. Like, if you want to put on a spectacle where you've got your biggest stars, you've got, for example, Seth Rollins, Bronson Reed is on the up. You've got the champion versus champion. You've got Rhea Ripley. You've got KO. You've got Randy Orton. It's a safe card. I don't mind it at all either. To me, it's a nothing show, though. Do you know what I mean? It's all focused around these Crown Jewel titles that really aren't going to mean a lot. I mean, there's probably more interest in the other matches on the card than those two actual matches, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, those are the 3 blood feuds there, aren't they, underneath it, where champion versus champion matches are one night only. But I've got an idea for one of those matches. I'm going to try and get a video out for you, either tomorrow or Tuesday, that might spice up one of those championship matches. But bear with me. I'm not going to share it here tonight. Moxie says, CD says, I'm called CD John Moxie. Hope you don't mind the comparison. Moxie cheating to win the AEW World Championship won't hurt him. He's a 4-time world champion. It won't hurt for him to cheat in every match in one title reign. I think that's a fair comment. Fair comment. So funny how Adam Cole is the babyface now and MJF is the heel when Adam Cole was the one to turn on him. That storyline is making 0 sense. But they are the right way round because people like to cheer Adam Cole and people like to boo MJF. But yeah, there was a bit of a struggle on Dynamite for people to get on side of whether they should be cheering or booing Cole because of his explanation. Just it didn't click very well for me. But I'm looking forward to the match regardless.
This whole story just needs a reset. They need to. It's a shame that they don't have like a brand split thing because these two could honestly do with being kept away from each other for 18 months just so that they can almost reset and revisit it down the line. Like it's lazy booking because obviously the original Devil story never really finished, and it was again stupid that they revealed Adam Cole as the Devil when he wasn't medically cleared. Like you could have honestly, I say that they could have dragged it out, but let's be honest, by Christmas last year we were all bored of that storyline anyway, and it's like it's really hard to keep that story fresh. So I don't know what they could have done.
I think you just should have revealed Wardlow or something, and then later on have Adam Cole as, for example, when it was
The higher
like
power.
yeah, but it was like Rikishi was like, I did it for The Rock, and it's like, well, no, actually, later we learned you did it for Triple H. Like you reveal one person to then reveal the right person later. But yeah, I mean, you couldn't have held that storyline together for another 9-10 months.
Should have still been Tony Khan, man, because obviously, I thought my shout for Tony Khan was a great thing with the fact that MJF's contract, it would have made a lot of sense, but I don't believe like Tony Khan being an on-screen character, I think he's quite jarring.
It was a very well-viewed video, though. I'll give you that. It certainly got a lot of people talking on that one. It was a fun topic, discussion point for sure. But PS says now that MJF versus Adam Cole face, MJF heel means Undisputed Kingdom got created for nothing. It's like Will Smith in Men in Black. He bought the machine, got us to forget about the United Kingdom. And absolutely, and the thing is as well, Mike Bennett and Mike Taven are out of contracts, I think, later this month, because Maria has been very public about her contract expiring. I think it's not being renewed. So I think that two members of the Undisputed Kingdom are not going to be available. So yeah, they could be turned up somewhere else probably in the next couple of months.
This is why I find it very hard to be invested in AEW storylines, even just the factions alone, because unless you're someone like, not even people with longevity, like if you look at the Dark Order, complete shell of what they used to be. They failed to do you know what I mean, take advantage of the hype that they had and when they were at their peak, and now they're just three guys that pretty much job now, and like they've tried to make them more evil again, and it just doesn't work anymore. So I just found it really hard to get invested in factions in AEW.
Absolutely. And as CD says, factions mean nothing. They last for 2 months and then just randomly break up for no reason. It's not What's a lie.
Point? It's almost like it's just a cheap ploy to sell t-shirts, if I'm honest. Like there's no, like, do you know what I mean? There's no end. Like it almost feels like the BCC at this point are meant to be like the NWO of this generation of wrestling, and it's kind of like you're gonna have to do a lot to be the NWO. Do you know what I mean? We've gone through NWO DX, Bullet Club, for example, and it's kind of like you're trying to find that moment where, again, like I said, the BCC become that next big faction, and I don't know, like this whole higher power thing could turn out to be really, really good. It's just like I'm really skeptical about Shane McMahon, and like, dude, we'll see what happens, man.
I want it to be Shane McMahon. I will say that now. I think the idea of like a McMahon coming in, trying to take over AEW and take it away from them, and then lose, so that Tony Khan be like,
Yeah.
I defeated a McMahon. I think just for storyline purposes, I think would be really funny. So yeah, I kind of want to see it, and I want to see X have a meltdown.
Imagine Shane actually did buy AEW though at some point in the future. How crazy! He finally gets a wrestling company, not the one he wanted, but he gets a wrestling company, and it just ends up being AEW, and we have to deal with Shane McMahon booking. I feel like that's just Vince Russo 2.0 waiting to happen.
It pretty much would be. I now own AEW Shockwave on Fox.
Well, he is the greatest wrestler in the world, so
5 years ago now. Surely we've moved on.
Undefeated. No one beat him.
That's true. No one did beat him for it. Should WWE do Chad Gable versus Bron Breakker for the IC title, heel versus heel? When PS says in brackets, when Bron will win back the IC title tomorrow. So we've got the prediction there from Pierre. But I would be down for a Gable versus Breakker match. Sign me up.
I do, but my problem is that what are they called? American something?
American
faction?
Made.
American Made. There we go. It's really cheesy, and I feel Chad Gable is another person that's lost all his hype from the start of the year, and like Justice for Chad Gable is slowly disintegrating into the world like into oblivion and becoming irrelevant nowadays. So like as much as I'd like to see it, I think they'd probably have a killer match. But dude, they again another one they failed to pull the trigger on. Having Chad in a babyface angle with America Made, and when that's not clearly the angle they're trying to go for with them, doesn't work for me. So like hopefully at some point in the future. But then again, dude, Miz is apparently in the verge of joining up with Karrion Kross, which seems kind of weird. So you never know, man. We've seen stupider things in wrestling.
We have indeed. I said, loving Bruce's Creeds, by the way. That was good. I'm back. That's good. I love Brutus Creed as like the laughing douche heel. I think that's really fun with his character at the moment. I think I'm really enjoying that. You mentioned, by the way, Miz here and the Final Testament. Pierre says, do you agree of the fact the next feud for the White Six is with that big loser, the Miz? I don't dislike the Miz that much. And the Final Testament. I think Miz is the smokescreen. It is simply going to be White Six versus the Final Testament, but I think Miz is the causing a breakup of a family, but it's obviously the work of the Final Testament. I'm looking forward to White Six versus Final Testament. I hope that goes all the way to WrestleMania, but I've got a funny feeling it goes as far as the Rumble.
Please do some spooky bollocks with it, though. Like, just do something different. Like, it was nice to see the Final Testament get a match at Mania this year, and have, to be fair, a pretty good match. It wasn't exactly bad, but like, he just seemed to be taking L's, and it's kind of like, go, dude, man, make Karrion Kross a big scary guy again, and like, do some cinematic stuff and make it all spooky bollocks like we love. And I know, like, I hate to say it, but I think the hype on the White Six is running out as well. Now, like, they've come back and just essentially treat them like normal wrestlers, and like everything they did so well with Bo Dallas as Uncle Howdy, like when he first came back and he was backstage and he just looked menacing and evil, and it's like, you've done nothing with him since, and it's like these guys, both of these factions really need a refresh and a restart, and like, yeah, they need to do something, man. I don't even know what, like, I don't know what they could do. Like, there's not exactly like, it's a shame that, like, bear with me, these two factions would have done incredibly well if this was the pandemic era. And like, we'd have got cinematic matches and stuff like that. But I think at the minute, they're just really lost.
There was a pandemic era though with a group called Retribution, so I don't know if I fully
no. We don't talk about them. That was a pile of crap. That was a Vince McMahon booking decision. If Retribution had been booked by Triple H, I'm telling you now, that would have been a hell of a lot better.
Well, there you go. It probably would have been. It probably would have been better. But at the same time, I would agree. Yeah, they've pulled off. Retribution sucked balls. But White Six, it's called off. It has called off. There's no arguments with that. But I like the fact that they've used them as an attraction rather than actually like shoving it down everyone. I think then you can tire of it the other way. I like the fact because these are a group of people that are not main eventers as well, and I think that this is the right level for the White Six. And Final Testament, I think, could do with something good to work with, and I've enjoyed actually Karrion Kross's work on Monday Night Raw. I think he's actually been quite underrated. I like the fact he's been the cause of the breakup of Awesome Truth. He's planted the seeds with Kofi and Woods, which has been an excellent storyline in my opinion. So then have the White Six come for Karrion Kross, and hey, look, you can have a lot of fun with that. I'm just going to throw it out there. No, Bray was the White Rabbit, but I mean, you can use everyone thought Karrion Kross could have been the White Rabbit after his Lucha Underground background, so because that was what he was called there. So you can have a lot of fun with that. For me, I think it'd be a really fun storyline to do.
For a second, I thought you were trying to tell me that Karrion Kross was the bunny. I was like, what? Was it him versus Adam Rose all them times?
He never. Well, Justin Gabriel might have just got a bit taller. That might have been the case, but I don't know.
My only problem with that is that I don't want Kross to lose. Like, I want this guy to actually succeed, and unfortunately, I feel like White Six is like the thing that they really want to build up, and it's like Karrion Kross just deserves to be in the world title scene. Like, they haven't got Bobby Lashley no more, so they need someone to replace Bobby Lashley. Karrion Kross is that guy.
Yeah, he's definitely got the tools to be that guy. I think give it time. I mean, obviously, I listened to Karrion Kross's interview with Chris Van Vliet this week. Yeah. That was the chosen Van Vliet listen this week, and good for the car journey. If you've got an hour spare, give it a listen. I mean, he was just so happy to be a part of WrestleMania, and the fact that he had such terrible booking, was out of WWE, come back, and then was a part of WrestleMania. Like for him, that was like a whole moment, and I think it was,
Yeah.
I think it was awesome. I do think it was awesome. The
Dude, I saw that part of the interview, and I thought that, like, do you know what I mean? When he turns around and says that, like, he took it in and stuff, and I was like, that is one of my favorite parts of the year. That and DIY coming out at WrestleMania, because you've never seen two guys really wanting to be there more than them two in that moment. Like that was like the most wholesome moment of the year for me, is DIY at WrestleMania, because those guys were just so gassed up for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly were indeed. Right. Me and you were at the hour mark with 20 minutes behind comments, so we are going to power through everything. We're going to power through, so we get through all the comments before we wrap up here today. Pierce says that he thinks the Creed brothers are going to win the World Tag Team title tournament to have a match with the Judgment Day. You think the War Raiders are going to do so, and I'm going to agree with that.
Yeah, dude, they're back. They need to be brought back to the levels of their NXT days, War Raiders.
Certainly, I agree. I think it's going to happen. I could even see the War Raiders win the tag team titles, which you predicted on who would have thrown every champion. That video is on the channel right now. If you haven't seen it, do so. It's an absolute beauty. CD says, why is Ellie not a special guest referee for Andrade Carmelo Hayes Game 7? Probably because the winner's going to get a US title match. I think that's the stipulation all this has said. I think that's pretty much the reason. But I do agree. I'd prefer him not to be involved, because it means screwy finish incoming. PS says, do you think that WWE should do a 3-match series with Rhea versus Raquel, one at Crown Jewel, second one on the Saturday Night Main Event, and the third one on the first Raw on Netflix? What do you think? If the story calls for it, personally, I would actually have Rhea versus Raquel, Rhea versus Dom, and then Rhea versus Liv. But that's just me.
Yeah, I actually prefer that idea as well. There's no story reason for them to have a best of 3 series. Do you know what I mean? Or even just 3 matches. Like, at the end of the day, Rhea wants that title back that she never lost, and so why have her go through Raquel 3 times?
Unless she loses to Raquel, then she has to find another reason to get through Raquel, I guess. But certainly keeps Rhea busy in the meantime for now. What do we think about the Motor City Machine Guns? We have discussed them a little bit earlier on. We thought that was an excellent debut. Thumbs up there from NXT. Thumbs up from me as well. Do we think they're going to become the next tag team champions, or do we think it's going to be a part of the Bloodline?
No, it's going to be Motor City Machine Guns.
Motor City Machine Guns will take it from the new Bloodline. That's our prediction at this point. Even though on that other prediction we made on every championship that's going to change hands, I did predict the Usos. But hey, there's time for it to change both times and then do it at WrestleMania. After Crown Jewel, while Rhea Ripley will have a feud with Raquel Rodriguez, should WWE feud Liv Morgan with Lyra Valkyria for the Women's World title? We'll speak about people getting a bit lukewarm on the roster. I think Lyra Valkyria has fell down the pecking order in the last few months. So for me, I'm going to say no. I think Liv remains with Rhea at this particular time.
2-hour Raws are really bad for that brand at the minute. Like, you hate to say it, but they are suffering with 2 hours, because they like having the women in a 10 I think it was a 10-person tag team match just really sucked. And bring on Netflix Raw, man. Go back to the 3 hours, because that brand is too big. They need that 3rd hour. That's now the problem. It's
interesting, isn't it, how it comes about? For me, I like the 2-hour Raw, but you're not the first person I've seen say that about that. So gives me an idea.
If they had a smaller roster, it would make sense.
It would make sense with a smaller roster. You are right, indeed. Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso could help Jey Uso win the retain the IC Championship. We did discuss that earlier, but I think it's a great idea. CD. Also, Lyra Valkyria for giving Tatum Paxley on NXT made no sense. No, it did not. But Tatum is a babyface, so I guess that's what babyfaces do. They forgive each other, even if they shouldn't. Maybe the Bloodline will forgive each other. We'll have to wait and see. Time will tell. But Pierce says, I don't think WWE needs a women's War Games match this year, because Bloodline versus Bloodline is so much bigger than every other War Games match this year. I agree with that to a point, but if we're not going to have the Judgment Day in the other one, then I kind of like having the women's one as well. I think I like it. I like Io Sky jumping off of a trash can on her head. Don't take away things that I like.
Yeah, I mean, if they could possibly do, I don't know, maybe if they could do like a fatal 4-way War Games for the women's tag team titles or something like that, something crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like, instead of it being 2 teams of 4, have 4 teams of 2, and you know what I mean? Like, first pinfall wins them tag team titles. Do something crazy like that. But I'm not fussed either way at the minute. There's not a lot of hype in a women's War Game match for me.
No, I have to wait and see. I mean, this time. There's time. I would see Rhea
There
and
is.
Liv being the leaders of those teams at the minute, but probably
Yeah.
with the female roster being included on it. But it could also be though Naya's team against whoever she's feuding with, because she seems to have a lot of allies and enemies going on at the minute. It feels with the way they're building on SmackDown. Matthew, thank you for joining us, Matthew. I hope you're doing well. It's this fantasy question: if the
Oh,
White
this
Six
is a good
were in
shout.
AEW, what female male wrestler would have the White Six target because of them turning on their families, friends, etc.? Well, so Kyle Fletcher would be in a bit above, wouldn't he? Turning on Will Ospreay, his best friend, someone who looked after
Yeah.
Kyle in the pandemic, gave him his sofa and give him some room in his home. I think Kyle Fletcher. I'm going to say the Don Callis family in general, because I mean Don himself has been trading members, getting people in, making this stronger new family. So yeah, can't be the best word. Don Callis family.
That's probably the best shout. But I'd also put a shout in there for MJF. Like that geezer has turned. You know what I mean? He's stabbed more people in the back than I've had hot dinners, like with his heel turns. And it's like, do you know what I mean? If anyone needs to like be put in their place by a spooky bollocks faction, he's definitely the one.
Certainly is.
Here you go. Here you go. Here's a quick one for you. Give me 6 names to make up a White Six in AEW from AEW's roster.
Jesus, Abaddon, because she's freaky.
Great shout. Danhausen.
Yeah, Danhausen. Yeah, get that, because you need the comedy element in there. He can put curses in there. Absolutely, Danhausen for sure. Yeah, if he was well again, if he gets well, poor guy.
Yeah.
I hope wish him all the best. But yeah, he would fit quite nicely for a group like that. Yeah.
3 more. Go on, 3 more just to round it off.
3 more to round it off. I mean, we've got a big roster here. Slim J. I don't know who to throw in there. Darby Allin, of course.
Great shout. Great shout.
Wouldn't he? He's just reckless as well. He'd be great for that sort of like mentality.
Put Sting in there as well. Sting's the Uncle Howdy.
Yeah, come out of retirement, give us some Sting and finish it off.
One
more member. Then who can be? Let's look at the
Brian Cage. He loves dressing up in fancy paint.
He does indeed. Yeah, Brian Cage. Yeah, that's our group. That's our group. I almost was going to put in the Drew McIntyre Timo version, Lance Archer, but I didn't go for that in the end.
Dude, that's not a bad shout as well. I like that as well. Either one of them two would do.
A new tag team moving forward. So let's see how they're going to be booked in AEW. CD's not a fan of the Undisputed Kingdom booking.
The Kingdom has fallen.
Kingdom have truly fallen. Bianca and Jade should break up now. Bianca should go back to be a singles wrestler, as she was the woman in WWE in 21 and 22. I want to see Bianca back in a solo capacity. It's gonna come. It's when I still think WrestleMania is the match between these two. Spoiler alert. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do.
They've
with
got
this.
To start planting the seeds for that split, though.
They have got to start the seeds with it. They're defending the titles at the moment. I reckon give it to the turn of the year. I think that's when the cracks will start to truly appear. We don't need another Grayson Waller Austin Theory storyline on our hands where it's like, will they, won't they? It's been 8 months. Break them up. So yeah, we can hold for a little bit longer on it. CD says Pure Fusion Collective have been competing on main event. Let's hope it stays that way. Ouch. CD, not a fan of Pure Fusion Collective. I like the group. I just hate the name.
The name sucks. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
I told you Zoe Stark was going to fight for world titles at the start of the year. Now look at a main event that's a main event in main event. It's sad.
Absolutely. Not sure CD's talking about here. The final testicle are boring.
It's because they're not on TV enough.
That's what it is, yeah. It's what it is. Pierre, I love the New Day breakup storyline because next month, when we have the New Day 10-year celebration, even if Big E comes back, I want Xavier Woods to turn on Kofi and Big E. It's going to be so good. I want Xavier Woods versus Kofi Kingston at WrestleMania 41. I love the idea if that's the destination for it as well, because I bet me just thinks it's going to be on a Raw. It feels horrible to say, but like, I'm down for that.
Yeah, or they'll waste it on like a Saturday night main. No, we'll not waste it, but like Saturday night main event it'll be. And like, I think with that Rumble or do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's got to be Mania really, because in that way at least you could get to draft season and then split them and put them on separate shows.
Absolutely, I would be down for that idea. I saw I think it was on Wrestle Talk suggest the idea of Big E on the 10-year anniversary come out and say like kayfabe retire, and that's when Xavier Woods turns on Kofi. Like that's it because there's no protection
Comes out
anymore.
in a pink suit,
Yeah, that set
a
me off.
salmon suit. Sorry.
Salmon suit. Oh, salmon. CD says, when do you think Rich Swann comes back to TNA? Oh, there's no timeline on that, my friend. I don't know what goes on with the situation. I don't know if the suspension is still on or what's going on, but nothing's been said yet. I think it'd be wrong for me to speculate, is what I think is the best answer for that one.
Yep.
While they're going through that. CD says, a couple of years ago, we wanted Raw to be 2 hours, but now we love it being 3 hours, and they finally made it 2 hours.
It's just the roster size that's the problem. That's the problem. That's what they're suffering with. SmackDown, obviously smaller roster, they can pack it all into 2 hours. Dude, they've been running 2 hour SmackDowns for like 20 years. They know how to do a 2 hour show. The roster's too big. That's the problem.
I still like 2 hour Raws. I'm fine with it. I'm totally fine with it. I know that it's like we don't get our long.
I don't have to stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday anymore now to watch Raw. Like it's only 3 o'clock now, but dude, the talent is starting to suffer now because of it, and that's the problem.
I just feel in the back of my mind, like I get it with the talent perspective, not everyone gets on TV, but then you can have some people on one week, not on the next week, and they're almost freshened up. They don't get stale so quickly. And I feel as well like I'm fine with shorter matches. Like save the long matches for premium live events. That's what they're there for. Otherwise, every week's a pay-per-view on TV. Like I'm happy to have short matches, short segments, and like we have to get through to the next one.
I'll give you a hypothetical. 3 hour Raws return, or WWE have a fourth brand. Another hour, 2 hour. Well, it has to be a 2 hour show. Then you've got four shows of 2 hours.
I'll keep the free shows. It's enough. Enough is enough. Can't deal with another brand. There's AEW. There's TNA, for goodness sakes. There's other brands out there. It's too much to keep up with. It's just one small YouTube channel.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Do you still think Rich Swann and AJ Francis win the tag team titles, RCD? I'm going to say no. I think that Casey Navarro and AJ Francis win the TNA tag team titles. But should Swann ever return, then maybe that might be the case. I see Casey Navarro has been signed to TNA. Just say quickly, by the way, this upcoming week, there will be Bound for Glory predictions. They're not going to be live. Unfortunately, I've tested the waters. The interest just hasn't been as strong with it being live as it is when it is being pre-recorded. So going to be shorter form content moving forward, either shorts or for the big shows, they will get their proper respect of like a 10-minute video. And I think that's what Bound for Glory will be getting. But there will also be Halloween Havoc predictions dropping this week as well. And that one is looking to be live at present. Lou Finesse needs to be in the White Six. I guess that's Tony Storm's former. It was the
Butler. Yeah,
he was a freaky dude before that, so I can see the comparison of why that's been there. When is Drew McIntyre coming for you? Hopefully never. And what's going to be Drew's next feud when he's coming back? That's a very good question. I'm not sure his next feud at this particular time. I mean, Seth is tied up with Bronson Reed, so I don't know.
Logically, it has to be Gunter, really, right? He has to be put in that world title scene, so he'll probably fit in there somewhere, like, depending on who wins the Rumble, maybe Chamber.
Could work. Just to be different, I'll say Braun Strowman, just to be different. But I think the world title seems to be the logical place. What do you think about the women's PWI 250 top 20? I don't have the list exactly on me, but I remember when I looked at it, I didn't have too many complaints, to be fair. I know Bailey was in the top 10 for WWE, which made a lot of sense. Toni Storm being number 1. I think Rhea Ripley was in the top 3. All worked. Yeah, it was fine. I'm just going to stick with it. I had no real complaints.
Very shocked that Bianca Belair wasn't like even in the top 20. Like, I'm glad to see that there was loads of Stardom in there. I thought that was great. The fact that I don't watch Stardom. I don't know if you watch anything from Stardom, but the fact that there's so many in there means that there's clearly something we're missing there. And the fact that Saray is in there that used to be on NXT, that's obviously shows that was again, bad booking for WWE. But yeah, just to run through the 20 again. Lyra Valkyria is number 20. Then there's, I don't want to butcher them, 2 ladies from Stardom. Becky Lynch at 17. Another one from Stardom. Masha Slamovich at 15. Another Stardom at 14. Io Sky, Liv Morgan at 12. Roxanne Perez at 11. Athena at 10. Mariah May at 9. Willow Nightingale 8. Bailey 7. Saray 6. Stephanie Vacour 5. Maker at 4, Rhea Ripley at 3, Jordan Grace. I think that's great that she's number 2, and Toni Storm number 1. Jordan Grace deserves that. That was honestly the best top 2 you could have done.
Yeah, I think it's the best top 2. Obviously, a number of the WWE stars have had time off as well. We mentioned Rhea Ripley had time off, Becky Lynch had time off, Liv Morgan had time off, so all kind of makes sense there. Bianca is probably the one big surprise in amongst that she's not in the top 20, but other than that,
she's been on TV consistently. That's the only thing, isn't it?
I would put Roxanne Perez in the top 10 if you want my nitpick. I think Roxanne Perez has had a fantastic year, but
mate, swap her with Athena.
Maybe, yeah.
Athena's number 10.
I mean, I think there's great work, but I've not seen it.
Exactly. I think that's the problem. You can't, if you ain't on TV and there's no one to see it, then there's no point. I think I agree with you. I think Roxanne Perez should be in the top 10. She's beaten essentially that whole roster this year. So
yeah. I mean, I've watched some Athena stuff, but it was like the start of her reign, not at this point of her reign. So, but yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? But yeah, that would be my swap. Tony D just needs the NXT Championship to be the first ever NXT Grand Slam champion, as he's currently North American champion. He's held the Heritage Cup, and he has been the NXT Tag Team Champion.
I do not count the Heritage Cup as a championship. It is a trophy. Let's get it right. Johnny Gargano is the only true Grand Slam champion. You can get the Heritage Cup out of here, man. Honestly, I hate it. I think that it's essentially the speed title equivalent at this point for me. I do not see the appeal of it. Like, you can do a tournament all you want. I don't care. It's not boxing. I don't care for 4 rounds of 3 minutes. I find it really pointless and tedious.
Yeah, I mean, TNA did it back in the day, didn't they? CD, you'll know the name of what they called it back then. It escapes my mind at this particular time. But yeah, I wasn't a fan either of the Heritage Cup. It's just, we're supposed to like it. It's British rounds. We're Brits. We're supposed to like it. Yeah. It's a British thing, but I can't get into it. I can't. I'll be honest, I've skimmed some Heritage Cup matches because I'm that not invested in it. That's how uninvested I am in it. I
mean, I think, I don't know whether it's a case of it's the people that have been NXT Heritage Cup champion. Like, I really hate the idea of boxing rounds. Like, it's a wrestling match. I hate it.
Yeah. For me, I prefer 1 fall or 2 out of 3 falls, but I still prefer 1 fall matches. 2 out of 3 falls is a bit of a bonkers stipulation as well, to be fair, when you think about it.
Unless it's 3 different match types, fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, the 3 stages of hell. Yeah, I'm better with that as well, to be brutally honest. Are you insane, NXT? Having 4 TV brands, WWE, it's never happening.
Well, that's why it's hypothetical. One or the other, 3-hour Raws or 4 TV shows. Bring back Thunder. I liked the name.
Maybe they have a level up.
Oh,
it becomes a big thing.
Oh, maybe do a cruiserweight division on it.
Fun. And Joe Hendry, potentially as TNA World Champion. Could you see it happening?
I hope so. And dude, also, apparently, he may be entering the Eurovision as well for the UK. I will never watch Eurovision more in my life if Joe Hendry does it. Like, I am so gassed for it. I want to believe in Joe Hendry winning the Eurovision for the UK with his song. It would be fantastic. But yeah, otherwise, I hope so, man. Nothing to do, don't it? And obviously, with like the mass TNA contracts that are apparently coming up soon, and you know, what did I say months ago? WWE getting into business with them. It's just a cheap way of signing all their talent when all their contracts expire. Jordan Grace, come on down. You can be the first one to sign. No problem.
You sound like Bob Barker's Price is Right. You know, come on down.
Jordan exactly Grace, come on down. Yeah, exactly.
I think Grace will be the first one. Apparently, Joe Hendry's got another year to go on the contract. So
yeah, apparently, who's Grace's partner? Jonathan Gresham. Jonathan Gresham is his contract is apparently one of the first ones up, and apparently WWE are interested in Jonathan Gresham.
I would have that because he's not really done too much in TNA, to be fair.
Not since he's
We
been
quite
world
happy with
champion now.
Just say that championship was the TNA Grand Championship. Thank you, CD. I knew you would not let me down on that one. I knew he would have that there for me. So thank you so much on that one. Matthew suggests Drew versus White Six or Drew versus Pete Dunne.
Oh, I like Pete Dunne. That sounds good.
I like the Pete Dunne one as well. Tony Storm will face Moray May at Grand Slam Australia. Matthew, I agree with you. Becoming the first ever AEW fourth-time women's champion. Agree with that 100%. He also says cannot wait for PCO versus Matt Cardona match. That is going to be at Monsters Ball, I believe. Yeah, that should be a fun one. I'm looking forward to that one. Bound for Glory looks like a really good comp. Yeah, he probably will. Matthew says, hot take, John Cena at the Rumble, the buzzer hits, and we hear, I believe in Joe Hendry.
Agreed.
Yes, 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 and yes. Give it to us. That's
my 3 early predictions for Rumble surprise entrance are Trick Williams, Joe Hendry, and no, sorry, I can't think of the third. So I've got 2. Those 2 I can see automatically. I think Trick's going to get a massive pop when he comes out as a surprise entrance in the Rumble.
I love all of that. Give me all of it. That's what I want to see. I want to see it. See, this is we're getting Josh Alexander versus Steve Macklin, and Steve Macklin will beat Josh Alexander because Alexander is on his way out of the company. Yeah, it looks like he. So, yeah, I think Macklin could be picking up the dub there. But I tell you what, we've gone through all the comments, all the questions, and this is the point of the video where I turn around and say, thank you. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. Without you all, we would have been here for 12 minutes. Instead, we're here for an hour 20. So thank you very much. For those who enjoyed the video, and hope that's all of you watching, you're still here after all, hit that like button, share with a friend, subscribe as well, all that good stuff, and keep an eye on the channel because this week, it's going to be a busy couple of weeks between now and Crown Jewel. I've not even filled NXT in on the schedule I have planned coming up. We're going to be busy, boys. Worst match ever is coming back before Crown Jewel. Do you want to know the match I've picked?
Oh, go on. It's a Crown Jewel match, isn't it? Please, is it the greatest Royal Rumble ever?
It is the Brothers of Destruction versus D
Oh,
Generation
no. No. Why are you making me ruin my whole wrestling life with making me watch really old men wrestle really badly?
It's worst match ever. And just to let you know, the election is coming up. Worst match ever. Donald Trump is going to be featured in this series before the election.
Oh,
we're not going to get political on this. We're not going to go pro or anti or whatever like that, but we're going to laugh. That's what we're going to do. We're going to watch this match because it's, I can swear it, it's dog shit, and we're going to have laugh at it. We're all going to watch it and we're going to laugh together. So that expect those coming up on the channel. And CD, you got some good news as well, by the way, if you're still with us. Mount Rushmore, Male Wrestlers 2010 or the 2010s is coming your way very soon. We will be doing that video for you. We're also going to do the women's version as well. Thank you for the kind words, CD. And PS says, yes, having Mr. Whoop That Trick in the Rumble would be incredible. Certainly would indeed. Let's make it happen. Thanks for watching. Look after yourselves and each other. And CD, thank you for sharing your idea. That's all I can say. We're always happy to take ideas on board on this channel. So if you have an idea, drop it in the comments below. You never know. It might be just coming to the channel. Take care. We'll see you for the next video. All the best.